much do you know about Davy Jones?
You owe me your soul. And it's time to pay up.
Swashbuckling pirates, sea monsters, cursed treasures, Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Man's Chest exploded into theaters in 2006, sailing past expectations with sword fights, supernatural bargains, and the unforgettable return of Captain Jack Sparrow. But behind the Kraken attacks and cannon fire, there's a world of weird facts that fans rarely uncover. Whether you've watched it once or a dozen times, here are 20 strange and surprising facts you didn't know about the second chapter in the Pirate saga. And trust us, Davy Jones isn't the only secret lurking beneath the surface. Number 20. Davy Jones's tentacles were 100% computer-generated imagery and almost didn't happen that way. When most people watched Dead Man's Chest for the first time, they assumed the tentacles of Davy Jones were a mix of practical effects and makeup, some rubber prosthetics here, some digital polish there. But no, every single slimy tendril on Bill Nighy's villainous face was computer-generated. And it wasn't just a good one, it was groundbreaking. Industrial Light and Magic, the visual effects powerhouse behind Star Wars and Jurassic Park, created Jones's entire face using motion capture data from Nighy's performance. The actor wore a gray suit with tracking markers, and cameras recorded even the slightest twitch of his eyebrows and lips. Then, animators transformed that footage into one of the most detailed digital characters of the decade. What's wild is that this decision was made after practical effects were already considered. Early concept designs showed Bill Nighy in full prosthetics, but the team worried it would limit his facial expressions. And Davy Jones wasn't just another pirate, he was grief, cruelty, and revenge wrapped in seaweed. His performance had to breathe. It worked. Many critics praised Davy Jones as one of the most convincing computer-generated imagery characters in film history, even comparing him to Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. What made it weirder? Some audiences still didn't know he was fake. A few even thought it was makeup. That's how real it looked. And that level of detail gave Dead Man's Chest the edge it needed to win the Oscar for Best Visual Effects in 2007. Number 19. Johnny Depp's gold teeth were real, and the studio hated it. Captain Jack Sparrow's gold teeth became an iconic part of his look, but here's the weird twist. They weren't props. Johnny Depp had them permanently applied to his actual teeth. He didn't use temporary caps. He didn't glue them in. He went to his personal dentist and had real gold fused to his enamel. Why? Depp said it helped him stay in character. He wanted Jack to look like someone who'd spent time around treasure, probably pulling out teeth for a coin. The studio, however, was horrified. Executives reportedly called his decision overkill and even asked him to get some of the gold removed. Depp agreed, sort of. He let his dentist take out a few, but secretly kept extra gold pieces tucked in where he knew the cameras would catch them. Later, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Depp explained that he saw Jack Sparrow as a rock star pirate. The gold teeth, that was his version of stage jewelry. But for Disney, the concern wasn't just aesthetic. They worried that parents would complain or that it would distract from Jack's dialogue. Turns out, neither happened. Audiences loved it, and Depp's golden smile became a part of pirate legend. Here's the kicker. After filming, Depp didn't take the teeth out. He wore them for years, even off set. He said they made him feel more like Jack. So if you spotted him in an interview or on the red carpet during that era with a glint in his grin, yep, that was the real gold. Number 18. The giant water wheel fight was mostly real and terrifying. The spinning water wheel sword fight in Dead Man's Chest is one of the film's most memorable scenes. It's chaotic, hilarious, and visually insane. You've got Will Turner and James Norrington battling while Jack Sparrow tries not to die, all while inside a massive wooden wheel rolling through the jungle. But here's the weird part. It wasn't all computer graphics. Most of that scene was filmed practically, using a real rotating wheel and real stunt doubles. To pull it off, the crew built a 20-foot-tall wooden wheel mounted on a hidden track system. Inside it, stuntmen trained for weeks to learn how to move with the spin, avoid injury, and hit their marks. The wheel was heavy. It didn't always stop when it was supposed to. and according to behind-the-scenes footage, several takes had to be scrapped because the wheel veered off course and smashed into nearby props or trees. Orlando Bloom, who played Will Turner, insisted on doing several parts of the stunt himself. He trained with the stunt coordinator to stay balanced inside the rolling wheel. Even when they used wires to help guide the motion, the risk of injury was very real. The actors were dizzy, the crew had bruises, and the wheel was a constant mechanical headache. The result, however, was worth every bump. The scene became one of the most talked-about action set pieces in the film. Critics called it inventive. Fans called it hilarious. But behind the laughter was a lot of pain, a lot of sweat, and a wheel that nearly flattened a cameraman at least once. Number 17, the Kraken's roar was made from a lion, a train, and a dumpster. The Kraken was no ordinary sea monster. Towering tentacles, a mouth like a pit of doom, and that unforgettable roar. But here's the strange truth. Its terrifying voice wasn't created from scratch. The sound designers at Skywalker Sound built the Kraken's scream by blending some very unexpected noises: a lion's growl, a rumbling train, and the clanging of a metal dumpster being dragged across concrete. Christopher Boyes, the supervising sound editor, explained that the goal was to make the Kraken sound ancient and massive, but also a little unfamiliar. They began by slowing down recordings of wild animal growls, especially lions and camels. Then they layered in metallic scraping from dumpsters and the deep thunder of moving trains. The final result was a guttural, echoing cry that seemed to come from deep under the sea. And here's the even weirder part. They pitched the whole thing slightly off-key so it wouldn't sound natural to the human ear. That subtle unease helped make every Kraken appearance feel like a rising panic. Next time you watch that scene where the Kraken drags a ship into the ocean's black pit, listen closely. You'll hear that roar, and maybe a lion's faint snarl underneath. Number 16, Gore Verbinski was soaked for weeks. Gore Verbinski, the director of Dead Man's Chest, didn't just call the shots from behind the camera. He was often right in the chaos, soaked from head to toe, working for hours under harsh conditions. Filming on location in Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the production faced daily rain, ocean spray, and equipment constantly breaking from saltwater exposure. Verbinski was notorious for being hands-on. If a shot involved water, he was often waist-deep in it with the actors and crew. Keira Knightley once joked that Verbinski smelled like seaweed for a month, but that commitment paid off. The realism of the ocean shots made the entire movie feel immersive. One sequence, Jack's escape from the tribal island, was ferocious. The scenes required the cast and crew to run through mud, climb steep hills, and navigate sharp coral barefoot. Verbinski didn't ask for stunt doubles unless absolutely necessary. If he wanted a shot, he'd get it, even if it meant being drenched or injured. Crew members recalled that his shoes literally rotted by week 3. And get this, he refused to wear waterproof clothing. He said it dulled his senses. If they're wet, I'm wet, he reportedly said. If they're tired, I should be more tired. It's no wonder Dead Man's Chest turned out the way it did. Its chaos was absolute, led by a director who refused to stay dry. Number 15, the heart prop, was so realistic it made people gag. One of the most disturbing props in the entire film is Davy Jones's still-beating heart, hidden inside a barnacle-covered chest. But what you might not know is how disgustingly realistic that heart was in real life. Designed by the film's special effects team at Edge FX, the prop heart was made with synthetic fibers, rubber layers, and a small hidden motor to create the pulse. But they didn't stop there. They added a sticky red fluid to keep it looking freshly removed. Even between takes, that fake blood had a strong metallic smell. Actors like Jack Davenport and Stellan Skarsgård complained that just being near it made them nauseous. Bill Nighy, who played Davy Jones, never actually touched the heart on camera. His scenes were digital, but other cast members had to handle it directly. During one rehearsal, an assistant accidentally dropped the heart on the floor, and it thudded like a real organ. Everyone in the room reportedly went quiet. It was also rumored that Gore Verbinski requested multiple versions of the heart. One was ultra-detailed for close-ups, another was softer and more flexible for action scenes. They even had a version filled with a balloon-like sack so that it would squish under pressure. None of them were pleasant to hold. The prop became infamous on set. Crew members refused to eat lunch near it. And by the end of production, the hero heart, the most detailed version, was stored in a sealed box and handled with gloves. Now that's commitment to creepiness. Number 14. Keira Knightley and Johnny Depp rarely rehearsed together on screen. The chemistry between Keira Knightley and Johnny Depp in Dead Man's Chest feels electric, awkward, charming, and just a little dangerous. But here's what fans don't know. They barely rehearsed their scenes together. Both actors had wildly different approaches to acting. Keira Knightley preferred preparation. She liked to go over her lines, understand her character's arc, and ask for multiple takes to find the right tone. Johnny Depp, on the other hand, believed in spontaneity. He often showed up on set with last-minute improvisations and delivered different versions of the same line in each take. Because of that, the two actors kept rehearsals light. They'd run lines separately but avoided over-rehearsing together. Director Gore Verbinski encouraged this method. He felt that Elizabeth Swann's shifting feelings toward Jack Sparrow should feel unsure, so the tension between the actors helped bring that emotional uncertainty to life. Knightley later joked in an interview with Empire magazine that she was never quite sure what Depp was going to say next. "It kept me on my toes," she said, "and sometimes I'd forget my own line because I was trying to figure out if he was messing with me or not." The kiss between Elizabeth and Jack, that was rehearsed only once. Gore Verbinski wanted to catch the actors off guard with the emotions of the moment. The result was a scene that left audiences wondering who Elizabeth truly loved and wondering whether that kiss was manipulation or something more. Number 13. Bill Nighy used a Scottish accent on purpose. Bill Nighy, the legendary British actor behind Davy Jones, made a particular choice when it came to the character's voice. Rather than using his native English accent, he opted for a rough, gravelly Scottish tone which confused many people. When asked why, Nighy said the decision was deeply personal. He explained that pirates from the North Atlantic, including many privateers during the 18th century, often hailed from Scotland or Ireland. He wanted to give Davy Jones a voice that felt rooted in that seafaring culture, but also carried pain, edge, and bitterness. He also admitted it just sounded more dangerous. Interestingly, the filmmakers never gave him a dialect coach. They trusted Nighy's instinct, and while some Scottish viewers found his accent inconsistent, most audiences were too terrified by the writhing tentacles and cold eyes to notice. Gore Verbinski later said he was happy with the result. The strange rhythm of Davy Jones's speech made the character feel unpredictable, like someone who had spent centuries at sea without touching dry land. That blend of salt, sorrow, and strange vowels gave the villain his eerie weight and helped make him unforgettable. Number 12. The prison scene was shot in a real fort with bats. The opening of Dead Man's Chest throws us into a grimy prison cell where Jack Sparrow sits among skeletons, scrawling out escape plans. What you might not know is that this wasn't a soundstage. The scene was filmed inside a real, decommissioned fort on the island of Dominica, and it came with some uninvited guests. Fort Shirley, a crumbling British outpost built in the 18th century, served as the prison set. The production team cleaned it up just enough to make it safe for cast and crew, but they left much of its original stonework, mold, and age intact. There was just one problem: bats, hundreds of them. According to Jerry Bruckheimer, the film's producer, the crew had to install temporary lighting during night shoots, and that woke the bats up. Every few minutes, one would swoop across the set. Several crew members got pooped on. Johnny Depp wasn't fazed. He apparently named one of them Gary and joked that he was Jack Sparrow's only cellmate who didn't talk back. The bats weren't the only problem. The fort's floor would often flood when it rained, so crew members had to mop between takes and place sandbags around electrical cables to keep them from shorting out. Despite the chaos, the fort added a layer of eerie authenticity to the scene. You can almost smell the damp stone. That sense of rot and age wasn't set design, it was just Dominica being Dominica. Number 11. Orlando Bloom's sword training was nearly military. Orlando Bloom already had experience with swords from playing Legolas in The Lord of the Rings, but Dead Man's Chest took things to a different level. His role as Will Turner required more than archery and quick blade flips. He had to look like someone who lived and breathed swordplay, and the stunt team wasn't going to go easy on him. To prepare, Bloom trained for weeks with Bob Anderson, the legendary swordmaster who had also trained Errol Flynn, Mark Hamill, and even Viggo Mortensen. Anderson didn't just teach choreography. He taught strategy, posture, balance, and the emotional rhythm of a duel. Bloom recalled that it felt more like joining a military fencing academy than a movie set. Some of the choreography was so complex, Bloom had to drill moves into his muscle memory for hours each day. His sword had a weighted hilt to simulate a real 18th century blade, and the production team often required that he perform extended takes without cutting the camera. That meant nailing every parry and strike in sequence, sometimes while running or spinning on wet, slippery surfaces. Stellan Skarsgård, who played Bootstrap Bill Turner, said Bloom's intensity reminded him of a young knight in training. Their scenes together, especially the emotionally tense sparring moments, weren't just acting, they were real workouts. Bloom's knuckles were often bruised by the end of a shooting day. And yes, he did most of his own stunts. That flip onto the cannon during the beach duel, all of him. Number 10. The coin toss scene. Took over 200 takes. In one scene that might seem simple at first glance, Jack Sparrow flips a coin to decide whether or not he's going to steal the heart of Davy Jones. He flips it, stares at it, makes a face, and decides. But here's the weird behind-the-scenes truth. It took over 200 takes to get that coin flip just right. The reason? Gore Verbinski wanted the coin to land vertically on its edge, spin in place, and then fall into Depp's hand, naturally. No camera tricks, no magnets. Just a pure, skillful toss. They tried using heavier coins. They tried different finger motions. They even tried tossing it onto other materials like sand, wood, and leather. But the coin would either fly off frame or land flat. Sometimes Johnny Depp would nail the flip but drop it during the catch. Other times, the lighting or camera angle would be off. At one point, the props department created a cheat coin with a slightly weighted edge, but it still didn't behave consistently. Everyone got frustrated, including Depp, who eventually asked if they could just say Jack dropped it and changed his mind. Verbinski refused. He wanted it perfect. On take 211, they finally got the flip, the spin, the catch, and the smirk, all in one seamless motion. When it worked, the crew broke into applause. That tiny 2-second shot became one of the film's most memorable moments of Jack Sparrow chaos, and no one realized how many days it had cost. Number 9. Naomie Harris almost didn't get the role of Tia Dalma. Naomie Harris gave us one of the most haunting and mysterious performances in the Pirates series as Tia Dalma, the swamp-dwelling priestess with an eerie smile and secrets bigger than the sea. But here's a wild truth. She almost didn't get the part. When casting began, producers originally envisioned Tia Dalma as much older. The early script described her as ancient, weathered, and hidden in mist. Dozens of older actresses were called in to audition, but none of them delivered the strange mix of charm and menace the directors were looking for. Then Naomie Harris auditioned. She was much younger than what they'd written, but her performance shocked the room. She layered her voice with a Trinidadian Creole accent, added rhythmic hand gestures, and leaned into unpredictable facial expressions. She even asked if she could bring her own wardrobe piece to the callback, a string of dried herbs and shells she wore as a bracelet. Gore Verbinski was captivated. He reportedly said, "She's not what we expected, but she's exactly what we need." They rewrote the character to match her energy, making her younger, more sensual, and far more dangerous. Harris studied Caribbean folk rituals, spiritual healing practices, and maritime legends to prepare. She wanted Tia Dalma to feel like she belonged to the sea, not in a Disney way, but in a way that made audiences just a little uneasy. Her performance was so memorable, it became a major setup for the sequel twist, revealing her as Calypso in disguise. Number 8. Davy Jones's crew was designed like a rotting aquarium. The ghostly crew of the Flying Dutchman looked like something out of a nightmare, but there was a bizarre method behind their design. Each crew member was modeled to look like a mix between a drowned sailor and a piece of deep-sea wildlife. Gore Verbinski called it an aquarium gone wrong. The makeup and visual effects teams at Industrial Light and Magic created over 25 distinct looks for the cursed crew. One pirate had a sponge-like texture growing out of his chest. Another looked fused with a shellfish. Barnacles, corals, and seaweed were stuck to faces, necks, and arms like tumors. They didn't just want monsters, they wanted slow decay. The design team even kept live fish tanks in the studio to study how crustaceans moved. Rick Heinrichs, the production designer, explained that each character's deformity reflected how long they had served Davy Jones. The longer you were bound to the ship, the more you became part of the ocean. Some were still human-looking, others were barely recognizable. To blend these effects seamlessly with the actors, some designs were entirely digital, while others were partially practical. For example, Stellan Skarsgård, who played Bootstrap Bill, wore heavy facial prosthetics combined with CGI textures. His barnacle-covered face took over 3 hours to apply each morning. Fans still praise the Dutchman crew as some of the most creative creature designs ever done in a pirate movie. They weren't just scary. They looked like they'd washed up from the deepest, darkest parts of the sea. Number 7. The compass doesn't point north. And that was a real prop. One of the strangest and most iconic objects in Dead Man's Chest is Jack Sparrow's magical compass. It doesn't point north. Instead, it points to what the holder wants most. But here's the twist. The compass wasn't just CGI or a plastic toy. It was a fully functional prop with working mechanics. Penny Rose, the costume designer, worked closely with the props department to create multiple versions of the compass. One version had a free floating needle, another had a manually controlled pointer so it could be directed during filming. A third version lit up inside for dramatic close-ups. What's surprising is how much the actors relied on it. Johnny Depp said that Jack's movements were often improvised around the way the compass spun. If it pointed left, he'd walk right just to confuse everyone. That became part of Jack's strange charm. The prop was so crucial to the character that Depp asked to keep it after filming. He reportedly took home 3 different versions, including one with the original cracked faceplate. In the film, the compass becomes a symbol of desire, betrayal, and destiny. In real life, it was a prop so cleverly made that audiences believed in its magic, and because of that, it became one of the most recognized items in the entire franchise. Number 6. The bone cage was a real structure with real fear. One of the wildest scenes in Dead Man's Chest involves the crew being trapped inside a giant bone cage, swinging over a cliff like human wind chimes. It's chaotic, it's hilarious, and it's weirdly terrifying. The cage wasn't computer-generated imagery, it was built for real. The production team designed 2 full-size bone cages using fiberglass molded to look like real bones. Each cage was suspended from a track system hidden in the jungle canopy of Dominica, where the scene was filmed. It could swing, bounce, and rotate, with real stuntmen inside. Actors like Mackenzie Crook and Lee Arenberg, who played Ragetti and Pintel, did many of the stunts themselves. They wore harnesses and were attached to hidden safety lines. Even so, the motion made several cast members dizzy, and one had to take anti-nausea pills between takes. The weight distribution of the cage was also a problem. It had to spin smoothly but not swing so violently that someone got injured. Engineers added counterweights underneath the jungle platform, and at least one cage tipped over during an early test, nearly crashing into the camera rig. The noise? That wasn't added later. The screeching and bone clattering were recorded on site using metal rods and wind chimes. It added a raw, unfiltered sound to the chaos that made the scene feel more dangerous. By the time it was all edited together, the bone cage escape sequence became one of the standout moments in the film. It was funny, it was stressful, and it all came from one real swinging nightmare of a prop. Number 5. Jack Sparrow's jar of dirt wasn't in the script. One of the most quoted moments from Dead Man's Chest is when Jack Sparrow clutches a small jar of dirt like it's the most valuable thing in the world. He sings about it, he talks to it, he even yells, "I've got a jar of dirt," at a somber moment. But that iconic scene wasn't originally in the script. The idea came during rehearsals. Johnny Depp, always hunting for ways to add flavor to Jack's eccentric personality, asked Gore Verbinski if Jack could receive something seemingly useless to protect himself from Davy Jones. The crew gave him a simple jar filled with real island dirt, and Depp ran with it. No one expected what he'd do next. In the middle of filming, instead of reciting his original lines, Depp cradled the jar, danced with it, and shouted the now famous line, completely unscripted. The rest of the cast froze. You can even spot real confusion on Orlando Bloom's face during that scene. Verbinski decided to keep the take. The spontaneity fit Jack's unpredictable nature. The jar of dirt then became a running joke and plot point for the rest of the movie, helping Jack believe he had power over Davy Jones. The prop itself was simple, a thick glass jar sealed with twine and stuffed with dried soil from the Dominican set, but it became one of the most beloved and bizarre objects in the entire series. Even today, fans bring replicas of the jar to conventions and screenings. Number 4. The organ, played by Davy Jones, actually worked. The pipe organ that Davy Jones plays in Dead Man's Chest is one of the film's darkest and most dramatic visuals. Tentacles dance over the keys. The music haunts the halls of the Flying Dutchman. It looks like it came from a nightmare. But here's what's strange. The organ actually worked. Rick Heinrichs, the production designer, and his team built a functional pipe organ that could play low, resonant chords. Actual 19th-century maritime chapel organs inspired the design, then exaggerated with nautical elements like coral, seashells, and bones. The tentacles were CGI, but the keyboard was real. Bill Nighy had to learn the hand placement for every piece of music he was supposed to mimic. The studio hired a music coach to work with him on posture and rhythm. Even though his hands were replaced digitally in post-production, the way he moved his arms and head had to match the sound. The music Davy Jones plays was composed by Hans Zimmer. It's a slow, mournful theme that sounds like it's being played underwater. The melody became a defining feature of the character. When you hear it, you instantly picture the barnacle-covered keys and the slow, echoing chords. The organ was later displayed at Walt Disney Studios for fans to see. It's made of wood, brass, and resin, and though the pipes no longer function, the keys still move when pressed. One of the creepiest props in the film was also one of the most musical. Number 3. The wheel fight scene left bruises on everyone. We already covered the massive wheel used in the sword fight earlier, but what many fans don't know is how physically brutal that entire sequence was for the actors. Orlando Bloom, Jack Davenport, and several stunt performers were left with bruises and scrapes that lasted for weeks. The scene took over 12 days to shoot and involved several practical stunts that required the actors to jump, duck, and run in sync with the rotating wheel. The jungle heat made things worse. By the third day, the crew had installed fans inside the structure to help actors breathe better while filming. According to Jack Davenport, who played Commodore Norrington, the hardest part was staying upright while pretending to fight. "You're not just swinging a sword," he said. "You're spinning, sliding, and trying not to vomit." The stunt coordinator, George Marshall Rouge, created a rotation choreography map for everyone involved. The team rehearsed the scene in slow motion, then gradually increased the speed until they could move with the spinning wheel in real time. One incident stood out. During one take, Orlando Bloom accidentally slipped and crashed into one of the wheel's spokes. The shot was paused, and medics were called. He wasn't seriously hurt, but had bruises along his ribs for several days. Still, he insisted on returning to the set within the hour. Despite all the chaos, the scene remains one of the most praised action sequences in the Pirates franchise. Fans remember it for its creativity, its humor, and the sheer madness of watching three grown men duel inside a moving circle of wood. Number 2. The scene with the Kraken took a toll on everyone's nerves. Few moments in Dead Man's Chest are as intense as the attack of the Kraken. The sea beast rises from the depths, destroys a merchant ship, and drags men screaming into the water. It's cinematic horror wrapped in a pirate adventure, but what fans didn't see was how much stress that sequence put on the cast and crew. The entire attack was filmed using a massive water tank on a closed set in Los Angeles, with gimbals simulating the swaying of the ship's deck. Actors had to perform in heavy clothes while being soaked with freezing water repeatedly. Orlando Bloom, Kevin McNally, and dozens of extras were strapped into safety rigs as the ship exploded around them. But even with stunt coordination, injuries happened. The Kraken tentacles were made of foam and rubber on set, then replaced with CGI in post. But those foam arms were heavy. Naomi Harris, who was on set watching one of the rehearsals, recalled that those things could knock the wind out of you if you weren't careful. During one intense day, a crew member slipped on the wet deck and suffered a sprained wrist. Another time, a large water cannon misfired and shattered a wooden beam near a camera operator. Production was halted for hours as safety was re-evaluated. Gore Verbinski wanted chaos, but safe chaos. He insisted on honest reactions from the actors, so they kept most of the scene practical. Every time the ship cracked in half, water blasted the actors in the face, and someone screamed, "What you're watching is very close to real fear." The sound of the Kraken's roar, created by blending animal growls and metal groans, was added later. But the sense of doom? That was captured right there on the day. The Kraken didn't just shake the fictional seas, it shook everyone's nerves on set too. Number 1. Johnny Depp's performance nearly got him fired. Again, it's hard to imagine Pirates of the Caribbean without Johnny Depp's unforgettable portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow, the slurred speech, the swagger, the charm, the madness. But when Dead Man's Chest began filming, Disney executives were once again nervous about the direction he was taking the character. During the first film, Depp famously clashed with producers who worried that his version of Jack was too eccentric, too strange, and too hard to understand. But after the massive success of The Curse of the Black Pearl, you'd think they would trust him. Not exactly. As Dead Man's Chest was being shot, Disney execs started receiving dailies, raw footage from the set. In them, Depp had added even more quirks to Jack's behavior. He made his voice higher. He moved more like a loose-limbed puppet. He said pauses in unexpected places and often improvised entire lines that weren't in the script. Executives sent concerned notes back to the production team. They worried that Depp was going too far off script and that the character might become a parody of himself. One studio head even suggested pulling back Jack's performance in post-production using editing and voice tweaks, but Gore Verbinski and Jerry Bruckheimer pushed back hard. They insisted that Depp knew exactly what he was doing, and that this new version of Jack was necessary for the darker, more surreal tone of the sequel. Verbinski famously said, "You can't write Jack Sparrow. You have to let him live." Depp found out about the concerns later and was amused. He told Rolling Stone in an interview that he never planned Jack out too much. "It's instinct," he said. "He's part of me now." And audiences agreed. Jack Sparrow in Dead Man's Chest was even more beloved than before. The performance earned Depp a Golden Globe nomination and helped cement his legacy as one of the most iconic film characters of the 2000s. Dead Man's Chest wasn't just a blockbuster. It was a wild ride of broken props, spontaneous moments, makeup madness, and creative risks that paid off in gold. From spinning wheels to swaying ships, every frame carried something you didn't expect. Whether it was Johnny Depp's off-script genius or Bill Nighy's terrifying tentacles, the film's legacy lives on in the hearts of fans who still whisper, "I've got a jar of dirt." Which of these weird facts surprised you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love movie secrets like these, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more deep dives behind the scenes. Thanks for watching. See you next time, mates.